Okay, Cooey, let's look at it, mate.
Oh, mate. Look, we'll start with, and again, just before we kick off, it's these top few indicators on our whiteboard, our monetary policy checklist that are more important. So GDP, again, how's the economy going? Straight to the easing side. And while we said that there's a little bit better news coming for the December quarter, it's coming from a base of 0.8 annual GDP, weak as water. We need that growth rate to come through. Inflation, I've moved from neutral to easing. I haven't quite got it in the complete easing cycle, but we're almost there.
Can you just put it on the line, though?
I'll put it a bit
more. That's it. I feel better about that.
Because the headline rate's under control, but again, that's been distorted by these government subsidies and whatnot. But the 0.5 trim mean, yes, we are hoping that we get another 0.5 or a 0.6 next quarter. Yeah, as I said, we're leading 10-0 after 10 minutes in the grand final.
But we look good.
I want to be leading by 10 points with 1 minute to go in the grand final.
We're leading 10-0 after the first 10 minutes and no injuries.
That's right. No one's been sent off onto the sin bin. Labour market, we've spent a bit of time on that. I'm just going to leave that in neutral because I don't think you'd hike rates because of the labour market. And remember, this is tightening, neutral and easing. It's a really good result, and it's something that, again, we should be pleased. We've got full employment or near enough to full employment. That's a mighty good thing. Wages neutral, not in the easing side because wages grow 3.5%. And to use the Goldilocks analogy, not too hot, not too cold, just right. 3.5% annual wages growth is something that workers are happy to get. Businesses are happy to pay it to retain their talent and good staff. And the RBA is happy because it's consistent with the inflation target. So right on neutral. International, I'm putting straight onto the easing side. We mentioned that even though the US Federal Reserve paused on its interest rate cutting cycle, England, New Zealand, UK, Canada, Europe are all cutting interest rates still, and they're not doing it for fun.
And China's
and China's cutting.
Yeah.
The economies are weak, so that's in the easing side. House prices are neutral because, again, just in the last couple of months, if we look at the CoreLogic monthly data, they've been flat to slightly down. Melbourne's down. Sydney's down a little bit. And even the growth in what we call the boom cities, so Perth, Adelaide and Brisbane, which were booming, the rate of increase is slowing down.
And I was talking to some agents on one of my podcasts yesterday, and they are saying there's a lot more stock around.
Yes, I've heard the same. That
people more stock.
Yeah. And that'll be really interesting to see the auction clearance rates coming up now that we're back into the normal, post-Christmas, New Year real estate market. Those auction clearance rates numbers that we get on a Saturday night will start to be really interesting. Retail sales, I'm putting that in the easing side, but on the line with inflation because there's a slightly better vibe on retail. Yes, it's coming from a shocking base. Retailers have got hammered the last couple of years, but with the tax cuts, with inflation low and wages up, that real wages equation, I'd still ease on the basis of on retail sales, but it's not as catastrophic. And similarly with consumer sentiment, we didn't talk on consumer sentiment. It's picked up. We consumers are less gloomy than we were 6 months ago. And again, we're not silly. We're alert to all the things that are going on in the economy. Maybe that's linked to the fact that everyone's got a job, which is good news. And there is a bit of relief that inflation's come down.
And people think that they're going to get a rate reduction.
And that they're going to get a rate cut. Building approvals, look, they've crept up, but that's easy. We need to build 1.2 million houses in 5 years. Mark, I'll swim across bloody Sydney Harbour if they build 1.5
Naked?
million. No, I'm not that crazy. I'll keep. Oh God, I wouldn't scare people with that. But if they get 1.2 million houses in 5 years, I'll swim across Sydney Harbour.
It's not going to happen.
Even if they get to a million, that would actually be not a bad result because we need houses. We need them. We need them. That supply issue is still there, and we're not building enough. A rate cut would actually help the construction sector.
Totally.
Help them to build stuff, to build apartments and townhouse complexes and high rise. We need that rate cut to stimulate borrowers to build that house. Business investment's okay.
And it has been for a long time.
Business investment's fine. So people are spending money on AI and technology and machinery, warehouses, as we get stuff delivered, rather than going to the bricks and mortar retail shop, we get, all the trucks and things that deliver the box from from all these people to your front door. People are spending money, businesses are spending money on CapEx. Business confidence, it's taken a little bit of a tick down as the economy slowed down the last 6 months in particular. Business confidence was really quite resilient until then, but I think the combination of what's happening globally too. I think, businesses have got an international focus. They're sort of looking overseas and thinking, oh, gee, I just better be a little bit cautious about tariffs. In fact, just earlier this week, I was talking to a number of companies that had manufacturing plants in Mexico. They're Australian companies with a manufacturing plant because it's cheap labour and all the rest of it. They're saying that the tariff stuff is causing them to lose sleep at night.
Wow.
Tariffs on, tariffs off. What do we do? What do we do? And so they're actually having a really serious rethink about what they do. So the business confidence has taken a bit of a hit from that tariff war without getting into the politics of that thing. Commodity prices. This is one, okay, the only one in the tightening cycle. Commodity prices, petrol's down, so we're paying $1.80 odd, whatever it is. Not bad. But if you look at coffee, orange juice, eggs, it's basically food. Food prices globally, and a lot of these things are traded, wheat and things are internationally traded. Commodity prices are really high. And so if you're a farmer in Australia, you can supply the local market, or you can export at these high export prices. You'll sell them overseas. So we've just got to be very. I'm watching commodity prices. One of my favourite indicators and it's not just oil and nickel and copper and all that other stuff. But it actually includes an oil, vegetable oil like canola, and that's the Ukraine war again causing.
How does this stuff feed back into our local inflation?
Correct, manufactured food. So the stuff that. Hash brown or something, whatever, which has oil and potatoes, whatever else goes into these things, I've got no idea. But the price of that stuff's gone up a lot for global reasons. Stock market really strong. I'll put that in neutral because it's going up for good reason, I think.
But it has an effect on people's feeling of wealth.
A wealth effect, yes. You look at everybody. By the time you read this, hopefully the stock market's still nice and strong. Have a look at your bloody superannuation statement. You might get a pleasant surprise. If you're not like me and you don't look at your super account, once a week or once a fortnight, and you only look at it every 6 months, go away and have a look at, what's my super done? You might just get a pleasant surprise how much is in there. If you've been contributing for 10, 15, 20 years, depending how old you are watching this. And current interest rates, they're high, they're restrictive. And again, remembering what Michelle Bullock, RBA governor, has said about the current level of interest rates, they are restrictive. So they know that the tourniquet of interest rates is squeezing the economy. They're not going to hike. We know that now. It's just a matter of when they start easing. So you look at the overall board, and as I said, the things at the top end, the top quarter of this board are the things that are really important.
So are you convinced?
Cut, probably a cut. These aren't standing in the way of a cut, is how I describe the labour market.
Well,
they're not in the way. So I'm
not convinced for the 18th.
I'm going to put my neck on the chopping block and say they're going to deliver a 25-point cut, but the words that are spoken afterwards will be very cautious.
Okay, I want a cut, and I want numerous cuts because I want our customers to be, and everybody for that matter, to be paying less interest on their mortgage, and I want property developers to be more encouraged to build more houses as a result of things being cheaper. But I'm not convinced that the time is going to be right for February. I'm not sure what is and what isn't sustainable in terms of inflation. I'm not sure because I think some of these other things that you've pointed out could kick inflation up at a heartbeat.
Things like the commodity prices and I've got the international economy here on the weak side, but it doesn't take much, as we saw during the pandemic and that lift in inflation in late 21, early 22. It went from 1% to 5% in 6 months, and it went to 8% shortly thereafter because of those constraints.
And no doubt Michelle Bullock does exactly the same as what you've done now.
Effectively, yes.
They go through the board.
Effectively, they do.
And it'd be interesting to know what the old board, who's going to be at this meeting, says. I mean, and how do they want to go out?
Look, that's one other thing too, because the new Monetary Policy Board, which takes effect for the April the 1st meeting, has more monetary policy experts, if that's that's the reason for the reform. Should we leave it to the existing board, who don't have the monetary policy experts on board? Should they cut rates and then the new board comes and think, oh, what the hell did you cut rates for, sort of thing? But I still think that there's enough common sense from the.
Do you think they'd be joined to each other? They're not allowed to.
Well, the common denominator in the old board and the new board is the RBA governor, the deputy governor, the Treasury Secretary, and I think that's an okay appointment on the RBA board because Stephen Kennedy, good fella, he knows what's happening to fiscal policy. He knows what's happening to budget revenue and things like that to sort of say, oh, gee, we're seeing a bit of a surge in GST payments. Why? Why GST go up? Because people are spending money, or GST is going down. So he has that insight to just sort of give a bit of a leading indicator ahead of the official retail sales numbers coming out, because they see this revenue every day of the week in Treasury. So when you buy a bag of groceries and $10 of that is GST, they know the GST numbers pretty quickly.